Hello from St. Pete Beach, Florida. I am here at the Novelists Inc. conference, as we call it, NINC. For those in the know, I'm standing on the shores for the very first time. It's not really my first time. I've been here a couple of days now, but for my first visit to the Gulf of America. So I wrote in my Substack this morning or today about the concept of the soul as a sort of quantum expression. There's this theory that was pushed forward in the 90s, like 1996 or so, that the soul might be some form of, it's rooted in quantum mechanics. And so I love that idea, and I've kind of explored that a little. You can read the post. I'll put a link to the post in the comments of this video. But there's an idea, there's been a notion of the soul throughout mythology and history. There seems to always be some version of the soul appearing in different mythologies, religions, that sort of thing. So you don't have to look very far to find that in your mythology or faith of choice. As a believer myself, I'm a Christ follower, and so I definitely believe in the existence of the soul. I believe it's eternal. It survives us. I think that's something we need as a culture. I think that's the point, is that what we need as a culture is sort of the assurance that there's more, that our existence survives us when this body dies. So it's a pretty common belief. One I happen to hold. You probably hold it as well. In environments like this one, it's very bright right now, but behind me you see the Gulf of America, or the Gulf of Mexico, whatever you prefer. You see all this white sand, stretching down the beach. It's things like this, for some reason, that always get me thinking about things like the soul and eternity. Like, what this is such, it's so beautiful here. What happens to us once we pass on to another form of existence? And I gotta believe that this is just a hint of what it's going to be like. That's very comforting to me, and it helps me get through some troubling times in my life. So I hold on to that as a belief. I just find it fascinating that no matter where you look in mythology, that appears. And science is now starting to catch up with that as a concept. Quantum mechanics is weird stuff, and I've studied it for years, sort of casually, a layman's study of quantum physics, quantum mechanics. And it's always astounding to me how often that the discoveries in that field overlap with what we believed from ancient times. If you look at ancient manuscripts, things from Egypt, and the Egyptians had a concept of Ka and Ba, and those are two different aspects of an eternal soul. The Ba is sort of the Egyptian concept of personality. Your Ba is the way you express yourself in a way. The Ka is that core essence of your soul. And that's what is surviving pharaohs and others after death. And so, that concept goes back even before what we think of as even ancient Egypt. We have references to that in some of the ancient temples, hieroglyphs, that predate anything that we have actually been able to date ourselves in Egyptian lore. And then you look at other cultures, like in the Celtic culture, there's the concept of the soul living on and going on to Tuatha De Danann is, I think, the way you pronounce it, and it's a sort of afterlife where the gods live. Of course, in Christian faith and mythology, there's the idea of the kingdom of God, of heaven, and it just keeps going and going. Even the Maya and Aztecs had a version of life after death. You look at Vikings had Valhalla, and that afterlife. It just keeps going, and it doesn't seem to matter what culture you are in or a part of. That concept is there, that there is this eternal portion of you that lives on even after the mortal body has perished. I find that comforting, but I also find it fascinating. It makes me want to know more. And that's one of the things I kind of tend to explore in some of my fiction. Not necessarily the idea of life after death, but the crossroads of science and mythology for sure. I have a tendency to lean in on that as a topic, especially in the Dan Kotler books. But even more so as I branch out. I've written a couple of books lately that are outside of the Kotler universe. Some things I can't fully discuss right now. I've got some contracts on some things. So a book I recently wrote, however, that's being shopped around, I call it The Hollow King, and it leans very heavily on that concept of the soul as something that could potentially not only survive the mortal host, but maybe even move from host to host. And so that opens a whole can of worms to explore philosophically. So at any rate, I thought you might get a kick out of seeing me here at NINC 2025 in Florida. It's been a great week so far. I got 2 or 3 days left before I fly home. Trying to get a little sun. When I come to these things, a lot of times I don't actually spend much time touching sand, as you might say. So it's kind of good to get out and wander a bit. I always feel a little self-conscious when I'm talking to the camera and there's people around, so you may hear me duck out every now and then. But I just really thought it would be kind of wonderful to come and move along the shore for once. And I always record things from my office or someplace local or whatever. And I do travel a lot, so I want to start taking advantage of these environments. This whole post about the soul and about the overlap of quantum physics and mythology, it's deeply rooted for me. This is the sort of thing I love to explore. As I said earlier, this is what I thrive on. I want to find the stories that I don't know. I got this feeling that science is just really rediscovering things we once knew, and that is something I'm very much on board for. Sign me up, because there's whenever you look at mythology, and if you've followed my work for any length of time, if you're a fan of the Dan Kotler books in particular, I like to explore what they refer to as comparative mythology. So that is the idea that all these cultures, even including disparate and disconnected cultures, share common themes in their mythology. I mean, if you look at the Aztecs and Mayans, there's an Aztec text called the Popol Vuh, and that actually contains a creation myth that aligns very closely with the Christian creation myth. And this is a culture that should never have had any contact with the Western world. So, what's the story there? It's fascinating that there would be any connection at all. Every culture has a flood myth. You've probably heard that one. Every culture, every major mythology for certain has a flood myth. Why is that? Where does that come from? And a lot of people think, there's a link there with the Younger Dryas event, which was a sort of, there was some global flooding. Because of that, we've seen evidence of that in the geological record. So this is the sort of thing. It's like what is the actual message that we should take from studying history and mythology, especially as science starts to open new doors for us. And quantum physics is the kind of thing that, even Einstein was sort of blown away by the implications of quantum mechanics. He refers to spooky action as a distance when he's talking about what we now call quantum entanglement. That's something that violates the natural laws of physics, the Newtonian laws of physics. How does that happen? Why does that happen? So that's the for me, and for other authors like me, that's kind of the point of why we do what we do. We're exploring those questions. We're trying to supply a why for the question of, is there a soul? And if so, what is it? Is there an afterlife? If so, where is it? Why are there so many coincidences in the histories and mythologies of cultures across the world that really should have no connection with each other? Why does that exist? Why is this a thing? So anyway, that's my rambling diatribe for the day. These tend to be a little more organized and quiet, and I don't know if you're getting wind noise or something, and I apologize for that, but I'll probably be returning to my office for the next one, but who knows? I may post at least some shorts or something between now and then. And I'm trying to grow this channel, so I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you want to find, more from me, I regularly write on Substack. I'll probably even share this video on that Substack post. So you can go over there, and that's kevintumlinson.substack.com. And go to kevintumlinson.com. You'll find all my books, all that stuff. So I think I've got all the obligatory mentions and plugs out of the way now. But I hope you are having a wonderful day, a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend. If you are in a place like this, man, go out and touch some sand. Put your feet in some water. I don't do it enough, so you probably don't either. But God bless you. I'll see you all next time.